Hi, I'm Dr. Martin Rutherford here at Power Health, and today's question is, my young wife has gastric bypass surgery, and now my young wife has gastric bypass surgery and now has fibro. Can it be connected? Yes, it can be connected. So I'll expand on that just a bit. Okay. Fibromyalgia is pretty complex. Fibromyalgia can have a lot of moving parts to it, and those moving parts can include autoimmunity, chronic stress, bad gut bacteria, small fiber neuropathies that can cause it. There's just a lot of there's a number of moving pieces relative to having fibromyalgia. The surgery itself does not cause fibromyalgia. The surgery itself is a trigger. So things that could trigger mechanisms that will cause fibromyalgia would be overwhelming infections. So for those of you who've watched me, you know that I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And that was when it was like chronic fatigue, immunodeficiency disease, fibromyalgia, it's in your head type of a thing. And so mine was set off by chronic stress, being ultimately affected by an overwhelming infection. Mine was pneumonia, okay? It could be set off by having a car accident, or any type of an accident, any type of an injury. I broke my arm or something like that, because that increases cortisol, which then sets off inflammation, which then can set off an autoimmune response. And if you have fibromyalgia, you have autoimmunity. So that could set it off. Having a baby can set it off. But having surgery is very common. And any surgery. It doesn't have to be a gastric bypass surgery. Gastric bypass surgery could be involved in many other ways, in that it could ultimately affect the microbiome, okay, the bacterial balance in your intestines, which is now being considered to be a organ to itself, of which it is being studied extensively, and it's really not completely well understood at this point in time. But we do know that if it sets off a bacterial imbalance in there, then that can create immune responses, because 70% of your immune system is in your intestines. That could set off an immune response. That could set off a fibromyalgia type response. And I don't know what the symptoms are relative to this, so I'm kind of opining on a bunch of different things. But yeah, absolutely. Usually when people come in here, I had one last night. One of the patients came in last night to interview, and you know, she had a surgery, and the next thing she knew, she put on 100 pounds, and the surgery had set off an immune response against her thyroid. Her thyroid is the reason that she was putting on the weight. But what brought her in last night was because she was starting to get tingling and sensitivity in her arms and in her legs and in her chest and in her back that was coming and going, which is looking like it's an early fibromyalgia. So absolutely, the gastric bypass can do it. More than likely, it set off some processes that were already there. Maybe chronic stress responses, maybe already an immune response that your wife didn't know that she was experiencing. We call that silent autoimmunity. And in small ways, the other ways the gastric bypass could affect gut physiology that in of itself could have perpetuated inflammatory and immune responses that would set off fibromyalgia type discomforts and pain. So.